Good morning, it's your host, Robert Taylor, and for another video tutorial about landscapes. So, there are a whole variety of methods to anti-tiling. Um, the ones that we will go in depth about are distance fading, and then two variations of the way I do anti-tiling. There are three others that I can think of off the top of my head. One of them, Unreal Sensei, is the creator of it, from what I can tell, and it's called cell bombing. If you want to learn more about it, there will be a link in the description to his landscape material. Last I saw, it was free, and it's always been free because he uses it as a way to get people to sign up for his courses. The next one, Ben Cloward does, and I'll put his into the description as well. And Ben Cloward does something with the UVs, and it's an amazing, beautiful method to ensure that there's no anti-tiling, at the drawback of it being more expensive than any other anti-tiling method. Um, it requires an additional texture sample, whereas the rest require one or two, depending on what you're doing. And then the third is a node. The node is called texture variation. So it's complicated to get it working. When it is set up, it works great unless you do RVT. When you do RVT, weird things start happening. You start seeing straight lines where you shouldn't. So if you plan on using runtime virtual texturing, don't use this. As far as I know, all the other methods work well with RVT. Um, if they don't, news to me, because I usually only utilize mine. So the first one I'm going to show off is distance blending. So the best way to explain distance blending is to show you. We're going to start getting closer. And as you can see, tiling is fading into smaller tiling. Now the reason this works so well is up close, sure you're seeing smaller tiling, but generally speaking you're going to be surrounded by a bunch of static meshes like grass, rocks, buildings, things like that that are going to break up the tiling. But at a distance, the tiling is very much less noticeable. This works very well with cliff faces, but I just don't like it because that is just not how landscaping works in the real world. It doesn't look natural to me. And if you're moving too fast, as you can see, it's pretty noticeable. However, if I just come down here, I quickly hit play. I say quickly, but it's, there you go. Seeing the transition is unnoticeable because of how slow you're going. So it's not really that big of a deal for those that don't mind it. So how did I do it? Well, there's a node called distance blend. In it you do a distance blend range, which I have 15,000 in there. Once you get to a certain number, it starts doing this weird thing to show. I don't understand it, don't know why, don't ask. And then distance start blend. This always, if you read this tooltip, input should be a negative value in units. So it always needs to be negative, unless you do a 1 minus node. If you were to go put a 1 minus node, and then hook it up and keep it in the positives, it would work. I just don't care because it's not what I'm going to use. What this does, though, if I put this to 0, and we save, you can see the change is quite sudden. And if I put this to, say, 1,000, See how quick that was? That's insane. So let's put this to more like 5,000. Make it a little more tolerable. That's just the short and the long of it. That's how it works. So in order to do that, you have to duplicate your textures. And regardless of which method you choose, outside of, I believe, cell bombing, and then the texture variation node that I deleted, you have to have two duplicated. Now the texture variation one, even though you don't have two, in that math there's like 16 different texture samples, so it's doing a lot of math and using a lot of these. Excuse me. So regardless, you're using a lot. So I have a lerp node here. Down the road, we will be changing all of this up and making it look a lot nicer than it does now when we do material functions inside material functions. But anyways, if you recall last time, the strings were all coming out of these, which they're now coming out of this. There's no reason to have having each of these having their own lerp node when I can just have three lerp nodes pulling from the RGB and then separating them out to the math that they need to go to. So set that up. The only thing that changes on this side is I put a distance UVs. That's for later because I wanted to keep the rest of this information. So distance UVs, that right there determines the size of the UVs at a distance, obviously. So literally, all this is a lerp node and this. And when you copy and paste this UV information right here to hook into these, you make sure that you change this name, which I did, but for my noise, my anti-tiling method, and then set the size, rotation, all that stuff how you wish. That's all it is to anti-tiling for this whole thing. Now, it's important to note that lerp only works with texture samples. To my knowledge, I do not think, we're going to find out together right now, you right click and it's not here. Let's do this. Texture sample. Right click, convert to texture object. It is now a 2D object. Let's see. Nope. 2D objects do not work in this. Now you've seen me use lerps before with a scalar. So it works with textures and vectors and whatever the duplicate is of scalar, RG and scalar. So that's literally all lerp works for. So what happens if you are come down here, click on this, in this situation, and you want to lerp this with another one for a noise situation? It's quite easy. Oh. You have a bunch of uniquely made blend materials. I generally just use this one. This is this, but for an entire material. Alright, now that I'm done with that, let's continue on. So if you're like me and you don't like how this type of anti-tiling works, don't fret. We're going to change that. Oops, that should have stayed with it. I'm going to connect this back up to this. Delete that because I don't want it. The first one we're going to go over is the sound texture through noise. Sorry, I don't know why I say second texture. I guess I didn't change this one. So this is an alteration to what I like to use, but instead of using the noise node, which arguably is more expensive than a texture sample, this can be cheaper. Now, note that I say it can be cheaper. You are losing a texture sample, whereas with this one you're not. So it's literally an up in the air, what you choose to do type of thing. So to make this easy for next time, do this and do this. I'm just going to delete this because I don't care for it. Now then, when I hit save, it's going to do its math. And you're not going to see any difference yet. It all looks identical. It looks like there's terrible tiling. And there's a reason for that. You've got to do some setup here. So if I come here, I'm going to close this so that we can see it happening as I move the stuff around. Here I have all the anti-tiling. Oh, there's one thing that I want to change. Fine, we'll leave you open for now. This one right here. We're going to change this to none so that it shows up with the rest of them. It'll make this easier. There we go. So first things first, we're not going to notice anything change unless we go and do things like make this extreme. Still no change though, and you may be wondering why. What we need to do is the noise size. Right now it's going off of a texture, so it's not that big. Okay, still not that big. Interesting. Let's see here. Are we seeing any difference is my question. Something that'll make this even easier is if we change this to 0.5. There, oh, did you see that? There is change happening in the air. So, if we come here to this, where is it? -2, -3. Okay, let's not go with that. And if we go with 5, there we go. There's massive change now. As you can see, the tiling is starting to change. It's not as noticeable. Let's make this scale 0.8. Boy, that was a massive change. I didn't think 0.8 would do that. We go back to 1. Huh, I'll have to see what's going on there. Unless, do I have this? Oh, that's why I have it set to 10. That makes perfect sense now. So let's move this to 1 and move this UV to 1. Makes it much easier to see. So if I change this now to 0.8, let's go with 0.9. You can see that the tiling is changing, but it's not very pleasant, and that's because now I have the size set to this. Now it's changed even more, but it's very hard to remove the tiling of this. Let's change you to 1, see what happens. That's terrible. Terrible. See, you can see the changes happening slowly but surely. 1200. And the distance, you're not seeing any tiling here, but you are right here, but you're not in the general vicinity, which is generally how much you would see to begin with. So this is a very minor, as you can see now I changed that to 3. If I change this to 0, that's a bad idea. It removes the negative altogether. So the tiling is being altered, and you just have to find the number that you like. And it looks like 1200 is pretty good. Now, the reason I don't like it is, as you can see, there's some places where it's not very strong, and in other places it's amazingly strong. That's the downside of utilizing a texture. Now, the texture I am using, it's free, everyone can get. It's the default macro variation. We'll use that to create more variation in the future in the color over the whole landscape as a whole to help bring it together. But that's literally it. That's it. Again, I'm not big on it, so I don't utilize it. Now that I'm going to reset all of this information because I want everyone to see how my method works. Come here to saturate, put this in. Now the reason I haven't gone over it quickly, well, why I didn't go over it very much is because it's a jumbled mess right here. But you will recognize this layout, and this is why having material functions is great. This layout is right here. It's the exact same thing, just being used in a different way. So, let's save. Let it do its thing. All right. Now we come here to this. We're not seeing much of a difference, are we? 0.8. Change that to 0.8. Change this to 25 maybe? 50, 80, 100. So let's also change the rotation to 0.2. So that way we can see this. It's all about figuring out how to set this up for yourself. And I generally find this easier to do something crazy that we're about to do. It helps me debug. It's a great debugging method. Like this. The 3 parameter. Put this to red. Hit OK. Do this. Hit save. So it doesn't hurt to have a debugger, but it definitely helps the player to see where things are different. You can see the darkness. To make this even easier to see, we shall take this, put you right there for now, completely remove the extra color. Since we're going over anti-tiling, this is what we should do. Here is the noise. It's easier to see the changes in the anti-tiling. Makes it easier for me to show it off. So these bigger patches would work great for like the mountaintops. But here's the thing. We're not in the mountaintops. So here we are at 10. this to 0.5. It's got to stay between 0 and 1 for both the offset and the rotation. But I changed the scale already. So as of right now, you're probably thinking, well, it's kind of hard to see. Again, this is why having a debug feature would work, and I'll show you guys how to set that up proper in the future. But if I hit save, give it a second. Oh, yeah, that wouldn't work. Got to make sure you set it up correctly, ladies and gentlemen. Now, with that, we know what to do. If I come here and we set this to 3, 5. 1 is ridiculous. You're not seeing anything. But you can see that the anti-tiling is moving. It's changing. Now, obviously, there's always some sort of small tiling going on. But over time, you're able to change this to fit your needs flawlessly. It just takes a great deal of time and practice. Now, with that being said, it does not hurt if you so choose to have a third on top of it. That I have done that in the past, but I've found that with grass and with shrubs and trees and whatnot, it's not really that necessary. So if we change this to maybe 15 or even 20, go with 15. It's all about figuring out exactly where it works perfectly for you. So here's how it stands now. In my opinion, that's the best that you could ask for. Just so you can see how this contrast works. 0, 1, 2, 3. It just starts making it smaller. And then noise, that just removes it. That makes the line stronger. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed that, but by putting it on top, it gives it an additional 3D-ish type appearance. The landscape looks like it's moving, but it's not. Anyways, I think 15's good. No, we'll stick with 3. What does -2 do for it? Okay, we'll stick with -1. Nope, too strong. So no matter what, like I said, that appearance of tiling may still be there. But here's the beautiful thing. That connected, and with this connected, I'll hit save. Anytime you start feeling like you're seeing tiling, it starts disappearing. It's impossible, like I said, to get rid of anti-tiling all the way unless you want to go with something more expensive. So like Ben Cloward's utilizing 3 to quickly show that what happens when this goes into 3, because it can go like this. Like I said, we're going to delete this. It's not needed. It's in the way. Got this one right here. If we do, let's delete that. Come up here to this, hold down shift and highlight the rest of this. Copy, paste. Whoops. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Come over here and hit paste. There we go. And then change this to have a 2 on it. We get ourselves another lerp here. We do this. So this is no longer going straight into here, it's going into here and then going in here. And you'd think just plugging this in it would work. Now if it was a function, I could just copy and paste the function. It would look cleaner, it would look nicer, but we don't have that benefit. Put these in here. And now we change this. Don't care about that. This I care about. So at the end of any of them that I care about for now, I will just put a 2. There we go. And now everything will be slightly different. Let's go ahead and hit save. Let it do its thing. Now obviously, yet again, you can't see much of a difference. To debug, again, we shall come here, base color, so that you can see the difference. This is why I should have a debug function, so we're going to create one when we create functions, so this is much easier to do. We'll do, hold down the V and click, debug color 1. I'm going to make this one pink. And then do this again. Now that I think about it, this one should be 2 because it's connected with the 2's. So I'll change this one again to a blue. Now then, if we hit save, we got more colors. So now we need to come here. If we look, this one's size 15. If I were to make this one size 15 as well, it stays within the pink, which is mind-blowing, right? Make this 20. If we make these all identical, 1, 1, 15, 15, we make this a 3, it's completely covered up the pink. So if I come here and I make this a 10, UE5. We've got a lot of change going. But now the bottom one's almost not even there, which is crazy. Anyways, we come here to this. No, we don't need that. Come here to this. Look at these. This is 0.8, so we'll put you to 1.2. And then the rotation we'll put a 0.4. And the offset we'll put a 0.2. Now if we change these to 111, the color becomes what it is here. And as you can see, the tiling is even more difficult to discern. Still there, but a lot more difficult to discern. So a third one works even better if you so choose. So really, anti-tiling is about finding the methods that you like for anti-tiling. No matter what, it's expensive. But no matter what, you can remove tiling if you so choose. Now, like I said, in most cases, removing tiling isn't an issue. You don't need to remove tiling in most cases. And the reason I say that is because, like I said, you have grasslands, you have which are covered in grass, you have forests which are covered in debris and trees and bushes and all that stuff. The only places where tiling would be highly noticeable are places like giant tundras or desert landscapes, things that are barren. So honestly, anti-tiling is only necessarily needed for that. So I like to keep it, and we will be keeping it, but later down the road when we modularize this whole thing, we will make it to where there's the option where they can tick yes, I want anti-tiling, or no, I don't want anti-tiling. Which helps the user to make the landscape exactly how they want for each material. Thank you guys for watching. I know this one was a little long, but I'm glad that you guys did. In the next episode, we will be going over triplanar. So we will be removing, let me zoom in here, zoom, zoom, zoom. We'll be removing the stretching. So it'll look here exactly how it looks here. Again, it's another expensive method, but you only ever need it for the cliffs. So you're only using it for one material. Thank you again for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.